Don't have no drag set. I got her locked down. Come here, girl. Don't have no drag set. I got her locked down. Come here, girl. Come here, open your mouth. Oh my. Like, oh my. It changes so quick down here. The big debate. Bladed jig, what's going on with it versus swim jig. I don't know how big that is, but the eyeballs weigh a pound. A lot more of that to come, hopefully. Another good one. Right on the top of the head. You know, like whenever I talk about, you know, bladed jig, doesn't matter what you throw. You know, this here's a Malay. There's times, like if I'm bladed jig fishing, I'm gonna have a bladed jig laid out, and right there's my swim jig, and it really just depends on the conditions. We have a lot of grass underneath the water. Anytime you get some wind like this, I like the bladed jig. It just like it calls them, and it can get slick calm, or the water can get real clear, and that's whenever I want to lean towards the bladed jig. But literally, if I'm tournament fishing or just fishing, I'm gonna have both of them laid out. And I mean, I might go, you know, you can see pockets of kind of flat water. I may throw the bladed jig, and then I may pick up a swim jig, but it's all the same. You know, you're coming across the top of that grass, or you're coming through the lily pads or whatever. They're pretty much the same bait. The only difference is the finesse, or the swim jig is more finesse, and this just calls them up. So they're kind of a 1-2 punch. And then there's sometimes too, I'll have a spinnerbait laid out. If the water gets dirty or it gets real windy, you know, I'll lean towards spinnerbait. You know, a lot of people talk about, hey, I've thrown a bladed jig and I don't get bites. What's the problem? I think the biggest thing is some guys want to fish it too slow. Like, I bring it. You know, it's a kind of a reaction bite, but I bring it on. And I mean, you throw it around any kind of vegetation, rocks, I mean, it really doesn't matter. You're gonna eventually get some bites. And it catches big ones. You know, there's just some baits that catch big ones, and this is one of them. Like, it's just all three bites. It's just like, and they're, I mean, really aggressive, just throwing slack in it. You know, when they're biting like that, it's important to have a pretty soft rod, because if you're throwing too stiff of a rod, when they bite it, you're gonna miss them, or you know, hook them outside, you know, like right at the edge of the mouth. You want them to get the bait. I'm using a 20-pound shooter, but look at the rod. like it's soft. I mean, when I'm throwing it, I can just see that, you know, that bladed jig's bouncing that thing. And whenever they get it, it just lets them have it a little more. And then fighting them, you know, we just caught almost an 8-pounder, 4-pounder, 2-pounder, and they all, like, I can handle all of them with this rod. It's only 6'10", it's a head turner, but I mean, it handles them. I mean, I've caught some big ones on this rod over the years. It's the same rod I throw a spinnerbait on, and everybody's different. You know, if I was making super long casts, you know, I might go to a little bit longer rod, but it's just hard to rip the bait when I get a long rod. This is, even though this looks like open water, you know, it's like this on the bottom. There's just scattered grass, and, you know, they're bedding out here. You know, all these fish that live in the grass, they're just pulling out here and bedding in this open water where they can get some sunlight. You can catch one anywhere, but like where I caught that begging over there, if you look right between those two, that high spot, that little drain right there, I think that current, when a wind blows through there and keeps the bottom a little bit cleaner than, so anywhere where there's like a drain, you know, where that wind can keep that bottom a little bit cleaner, the sand's probably a little bit harder, therefore a little better chance of catching one. You'll see as when I'm reeling it way out there, I'm gonna hold it up, you know, keep it high, and as it gets closer to the boat, I'll just start, you know, dropping my rod, and by the time, ooh, that grass felt good. By the time I get out here, I'm gonna hold it down just to keep it down. You know, this water's pretty clear, and I'm fishing pretty shallow, so I want to move the bait fast, and that's why I'm, you know, just a swimming dinger. I use a lot of them, like on the spinnerbait too, and it makes the bait more crisp. If you'll notice on a bladed jig, the more weight that you put in the back, the more it takes the crispness out of the bait. You know, if I needed to get the bait really shallow, or I didn't want it to be as loud, you know, I'd go with something like a, you know, like a hammer crawl, or a Christie critter, or something like that. But yeah, I want it moving here, just because as clear as the water is, it just, the back of it doesn't restrict it where it can swim. I'll just lock my mic wire up. Baby. You know, time of year. Let's talk about that. I wouldn't really equate it to the time of year, because, you know, everybody lives in a different area. Water temperature, when the water temperature gets about 55, you know, and they get right up there in that shallow vegetation and stuff, 55 to 65 is my favorite to catch big ones. Now, I've caught them a lot warmer than that, you know, all the way in the summertime. But that 55 to 65, but, you know, also you correlate that, that's when that water temperature is when a lot of fish are up on the bank, or they're spawning. You know, the majority is just accessible with a bladed jig. But, you know, summertime, I just, you know, I like to really move it. I'll go to a, you know, a little bit heavier. I think this is a 3/8, and I'll go to a half and bring it. You know, and as far as colors, you know, summertime I want shad color more than likely, and then in the springtime, you know, shad, green pumpkin, clump of grass fooled me, green pumpkin. Then if the water's dirty, or if it's just a dark day, I'll go black and blue. Bring it out of the water and let him get it off the trolling motor. Crazy. I didn't know what it was. I thought an alligator got me for a second. You know, you want to go fishing, you want to catch some fish. No kidding, like this bait, just you get the right conditions, windy, dirtier water. I mean, just get those fish up shallow. It's just a great way to catch them. It's a great way to catch big ones. I've made a lot of money, you know, over the years throwing bladed jig, and it's one of those baits that's not going away soon. So, you know, my advice is if you have a tough time, just, you know, take that and, you know, and just throw it. And once you figure it out, it's all about covering water. You don't want to go out and fish all day, fish 50 yards. It's not that. I mean, in a 1 hour video, we've probably fished a half mile. It's just moving, winding, getting the easy ones, and not making it too hard. So, you know, we're going to move on. I appreciate you guys riding along. Hopefully you learned something.